Hello and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video I'm going to be sharing my top tips for travelling with young children, and most of them are kind of generic tips which could be used whether you're going on a long car journey or a plane or a train, but a few of them are more sort of related to flying because that's what we tend to do as a family the most. But to give you a little background into me, if you're new to my channel, my name is Katie and I post videos 3 times a week on a Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday. I have 3 children who are 7, 5 and 2, and we are really fortunate that we get to travel quite a bit as a family, or as much as school holidays kind of allow us to. And the reason for that is, firstly, we love traveling. That's what we love to spend our money on. That's one of our biggest kind of family passions. And secondly, over the years, my blog, which I have been writing for the last 7 years, has developed into more of a travel blog. So we're really fortunate to be able to travel a fair bit, and it also means that my children have gone on a fair few flights and a fair few long haul flights as well. So I like to think that I'm by no means an expert, but I do know a little bit about flying with young kids. So I thought it would just be nice to kind of share my tips. Some of them are pretty obvious and a little bit like common sense really, but at the same time I thought it would be nice to share them anyway, because I always think it's really interesting to hear other people's experiences and stuff. So I'm just going to get started. I should probably start as well by saying that I'm not feeling 100% today. I think it is just hay fever. I don't know if anybody else is suffering with hay fever at the moment, but it's making me feel really groggy and my eyes are quite puffy and my throat is quite sore, which is one of the reasons why I thought I'll just film this video, because it's quite easy to film. But if I sort of don't look like my usual self, then that is probably why. But anyway, I am just going to get started and share with you my top tips for travelling with young children. So tip number 1 is kind of obvious, but at the same time it's one of those things that as a busy parent, when you've got so much going on, you might kind of put to the back of your mind for a little bit and not do it straight away, and that is to make sure you book your airport parking as early as you possibly can. The reason for this is, and I know this from experience many a time, is that obviously, which is pretty much common sense, the nearer you get to your travel date, the more expensive the parking is. And so many times I have been stung kind of a couple of weeks before, or even the night before we're due to travel, realizing that we haven't booked our airport parking and it being really expensive. And what I found is the sooner you book and the further in advance you book, you can get really good deals on things like valet parking. And so rather than getting on the bus with all your suitcases and your young children and your buggy and all that malarkey, if you get valet parking, you literally drop your car off at the airport. They then take your keys and they park your car so close to the airport that there's no fannying around with getting on a bus and things. And valet parking is ridiculously expensive if you try and do it kind of near to your travel date. But what I found is that you end up, if you do it a little bit earlier, or as earlier in advance as you possibly can, you can get a really good deal. And in some cases we've got valet parking for like £10 more than we would have done for like the normal parking. So that is my first tip. So my second tip is kind of obvious as well, but still worth mentioning, and that is to try and get to the airport with plenty of time. And you know, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? You want to try and get to the airport as soon as you can, but we have been that family that have been running for our plane. We've been like sprinting through the airport, like screaming at the kids saying come on, and sort of rushing. We've had our names called over the tannoy before, and it is just so much better if you get to the airport on time and with plenty of time to spare, because you have no idea what's going to happen when you're at the airport. There could be circumstances out of your control. There could be, I remember once waiting in Stansted and it being like 8 o'clock in the morning, so probably quite a busy travel time, but waiting like in airport security for hours and panicking because we were so close to missing our flight, but we couldn't push in because everybody else was in the same situation as well. So definitely try and get to the airport in plenty of time. I think people say, don't they, that the kind of holiday starts when you get to the airport. I don't know if that's true with young children, but at the same time it makes it so much more relaxing. If you get to the airport, you can wander around, you can look at the planes. A lot of airports have, you have to look for them kind of closely, but a lot of airports have like little soft place for children, and it's just definitely worth trying to get to the airport in plenty of time, because there's nothing worse than stressed parents, which then makes stressed kids, which then makes the whole situation worse. So definitely try to get to the airport with as much time as you possibly can. So tip number 3 is to pack your child their own plane bag. Now I think depending on who you travel with, obviously if you're traveling by plane, most airlines, even if your child is under 2 and they're sitting on your lap, they will give you an allowance for traveling with a baby. So they will give you an extra bag allowance, and obviously you get a pram and a pushchair allowance as well. But it's worth checking with your airline, but pretty much every single airline I've ever traveled on have let you had an extra bag for the baby. So for babies that's fine, and for children over 2 they obviously get their own kind of cabin luggage allowance as well. And I have actually done 2 videos before about what I tend to pack in my kids' plane bags, because it's something that I really enjoy doing. So I will link to those below if you want to watch them. But at the same time, I thought in a minute I would just show you a few type of things that are always in our bags. But in terms of the actual bag, we have had a few different ones over the years. Currently we're using these little kind of animal face ones. These were from my first years, I think, and we find that we get on really well with the kind of little suitcases with wheels and knees, because the kids just like pushing them. We have had trunkies before over the years, and we just haven't got on with them well at all. I don't know what it is, because like the idea of them sounds brilliant and we were really excited to get them, but we just found it was more of a stress at the airport, because they were kind of sort of going around on them and bumping into people, and so we definitely find that these work best for us. So that's the bag we use, and then that kind of leads me on to my next tip number 4 I think we're on, which is talking about kind of the absolute essentials, or not essentials, but the things that I will always pack in their bags. So I'm just going to kind of show you. So first up, I will always get them one of these magazines. I actually let them choose them at the airport, because kids just love this free tat, don't they? And this kind of stuff. I mean, these ones don't actually have that good ones on, but the kind of free tat that you get on magazines is like my kids' favourite toys. So I will always let them choose a magazine at the airport. I will not let them read it until they get on the plane, and they just find that really exciting. So we will always pack a magazine. And then other things that we will always pack are, we will always pack things like activity books. You cannot go wrong with a sticker book or an activity book, whatever age your child is. So my 2-year-old loves a sticker book, and my 7-year-old loves a sticker book. So just kind of examples, I always go to those shops like The Works, where they do sort of kind of cheaper books. Like this one is a Paw Patrol counting one, so you don't feel guilty because it's kind of like a little bit educational and fun as well. That one was £2.50. I've got here like a I Love My Brother and Sister colouring book, which was £1. And again, it's just a really nice kind of just things to keep them entertained. We've got a sticker book on space here that we've had in the past. And it's just all these kind of nice things to try and keep them entertained. These kind of things will keep my kids entertained for hours. I recently found this one as well in The Works, which has kind of, yeah, it's really good. So this one was £3, and every single page is a different activity. And we've actually had these before, but because they'd kind of had them a while ago and they'd forgotten about them, I bought them for them again. But they're just really good, like, and they keep them entertained for hours. So we will always pack activity books, and then we will always pack, I don't know where I put it, we will always pack a pencil case with pens or crayons if you don't want to use pens on a flight. Anything like that is really good for with kids. It just means that they can use those, they can colour, they can do all sorts of different things. So they are the kind of things that we will always pack in a, and then we'll always pack their iPads, but I'm going to talk about that in a second. But other things that we kind of give them for plain bags, like I said, you can check out my videos, but are things like slime. We will always pack them a blanket as well, because planes can get cold and it's just nice for kids to kind of get a bit snuggly and cozy however long your flight or your journey is. We will always pack, I can't think, a book for my daughter. We will always pack a book for her, and just there's all sorts of different things that we will pack, but those are kind of the main things. So that leads me on my next tip. Is talking about sort of iPads and apps and things. So one thing I really wanted to mention is definitely get a pair of headphones. So we had for years, I'm going to link to them below, from Amazon, a pair of headphones for each girl that were just really cheap. I think they were about £9–10, something like that. We had a pink pair and a purple pair, and they lasted us absolutely years. And then unfortunately on our recent holiday to New York, they broke, so we ended up buying the girls these ones. I've only got one pair at the moment, but these are like little emoji ones. Again, they weren't expensive. They were about, I think, about £10, and you really need for them to have headphones because firstly you don't want to annoy everybody else on a flight by them playing the iPads or whatever really loud, and secondly it just is good for them. It kind of helps them zone out, I think, a little bit, and just helps them kind of relax and get into sort of flight mode. So I will always pack some headphones. So I then thought I would talk for my next tip about iPads and different things like that. So I'm aware that not everybody has an iPad. You might have something else, or you might just use your phone, but we're really lucky that we have a couple of iPads because in the company I used to work in, they gave us them as Christmas presents. It was great. So we have two. These are really old now, and one actually has a smashed screen, but we got this case from Amazon. I will link to it below. I think it was about £8. They get them in all different colours, and they are so good for travelling because you don't have to worry. They can carry them around. It's really dirty, sorry. They can carry them around. They don't break when they're in, well, touch wood they don't, although one is broken, but that was before we got the cases. They come with a little pen so they can kind of do some like drawing type things, and they're just really good. So I definitely recommend those. They also stand up on the tray tables on flights, so they're really good. And I thought I would quickly talk about some of the apps that we like and that we really recommend. If you would like to know like more about what apps we did loads of research on apps before we went traveling, or went on holiday, sorry. And so I have got like a lot of apps that my kids like, but I thought I would sort of break down the main ones. But let me know if you would like to see like a bigger video on the type of apps that we like. So for preschool age, we really like the Animal Sounds app, which is the guy, I can't remember his name, is it Justin Fletcher, who does like Mr. Tumble? And we also like the CBeebies app, so that's kind of more for my younger one, my 2-year-old. And then sort of for my 4-year-old, or she's 5 now, sorry, but kind of for that sort of age group, so from 4 to 7, we really like Pet Doctor, which is where they have to sort of make pets better. It's really cute. And again, all these apps my 7-year-old likes as well. And then we like the Pizza app. I will link to them all below if I can find them still, because some of them are really old. But the Pizza app, these were all free, I think, or if, you know, they were just the price of an app. The pizza one is where they have to make a pizza recipe, which is really cool. Then I like Toca Tea Party for them, which I think there's loads of Toca apps, but the Toca Tea Party one is where you have a little tea party. It's really cute. Then they also really like this one called Hair Salon, where you take a picture of yourself and then you kind of make crazy hairstyles and stuff. So they really love that one. And then some more slightly educational ones, which are maybe for slightly older children, so more kind of 5, 7, that sort of age. We really like Monster Maths, which is a kind of like puzzle game where you have to solve like sums to be able to progress. And then we really like the Aristocrat Solar System, which is where you learn about space. My 7-year-old loves learning about space, and you just click on and you learn more about the solar system. And then another one we really like is Atlas. We actually got a book from this years ago, and they have an app, and it's beautifully kind of illustrated, and it's got like a world, and you can click on it and learn more about the world. And it's just a really beautiful app. I do think that we paid for that one, and I think it was more than an average app. I think it might have been about £5, but it's really worth it. It's lovely. And then another just like puzzle game that they both love is something called Dots and Co, which I've never played, but they seem to play it all the time, and it's just a bit like that kind of Candy Crush vibe where you just have to sort of solve puzzles by joining up the dots. So that is some of the apps that we like. Like I said, let me know if you'd like to know more about them, because I can certainly do like a more in-depth video about that, but they're some of the ones that we really enjoy. So my next tip, again a little bit obvious, but be prepared and pack lots and lots and lots of snacks. So regardless of your age, whether you are 2 or whether you are my age, if you're a little bit grumpy and a little bit fed up, a little bit bored, the one thing that's going to make you feel a little bit better is a snack. That's the one thing that's kind of guaranteed after everything else has failed to sort of cheer everybody up and give everybody a bit more energy, and that is a snack. So in terms of on planes, the type of things I tend to pack, I pack a lot of Cheerios because they're quite good, and they also are kind of like just an easy thing to pack. I pack raisins, I pack the yogurt coated raisins, we pack those like little Ritz biscuits. I will also let the girls go to WH Smith at the airport and choose some sweets or something like that, just because it's their holiday and that sort of starts the holiday off right. And then also another kind of silly tip that I say is that my son, he loves those kind of chocolate coins, you know, the gold foiled wrapped coins, and they're really good to take on a plane because it takes him ages to peel like the foil off the coin, which means that that takes up a little bit of time as well, and it means he's not eating as much because it takes him ages to unwrap them, because of course he has to unwrap them himself. So yeah, definitely pack lots of snacks. Another obvious tip is to make sure you pack a water bottle. This one just happens to be a plane related one, which was a coincidence because we got it on a flight, but definitely pack their water bottles. Obviously planes have got water, they can fill them up for you, so don't be afraid to ask them to fill up the water bottles for them. And yeah, just make sure you pack their water bottles, because obviously the air conditioning and stuff can get like quite dry and it can make them quite thirsty. So my next tip is to break down the flight into stages. So whether it's a flight or a long journey, I always find it really helps me in my head to break the flight down a little bit into stages. So I'm actually a very nervous flyer, which you wouldn't think because we travel a lot, but I do get really nervous and I'm not a very good flyer. So I have always used this technique even before I had children, and I just used to say, for example, the flight is 4 hours long, I would sort of break it down. So I'd be like, for half an hour I'm going to watch this program, and then for half an hour I'm going to talk to John or whatever. And I just found that the flight went a lot quicker, and it sort of made me more relaxed if I just broke the flight down into stages. So for example, with kids, you could say, okay, so for half an hour we're going to watch your iPad or whatever, and then for half an hour we're going to do some colouring, and then for half an hour we're just going to rest. We might play I Spy or something like that. Then we've got half an hour for eating or whatever, or having a snack. And I just find that breaking the flight down really helps me. So my final tip, which is more kind of related if you are going on a night flight or you're flying through part of the night, is to pack their pyjamas and their toothbrushes. So this is one that we have always done and it works really well for us. So we will get on the plane as normal, because whatever in a plane, they, especially with long haul, they tend to serve food to start with. And then once the food is finished and we're all a little bit more relaxed, we will go into the toilet and we will change them into their pyjamas. Sometimes if it's really late, we'll even get them changed in their pyjamas in the airport. And it just means we brush their teeth, and it just means that they know that it's time to sleep. And actually all 3 of them do sleep really well on planes, and I think it makes such a difference taking them out of their clothes, brushing their teeth, all the kind of things that you would do at home. We also make sure that their favourite cuddly toys are packed in their hand luggage, and we also pack them a blanket, just because sometimes it's nice to feel like a comfort from home. And so we will do all those things, and then we will tell them it's time for sleep. Obviously sometimes they take ages to get to sleep, but by doing that kind of whole routine, it does definitely make them feel like it's more like they're going to bed. So I really recommend doing that if you are going on a long haul or a night flight as well. So that is it. That is my top tips for traveling with young children. I don't know if most of those tips were probably just kind of common sense and quite obvious, but at the same time I thought it would be nice to film this anyway and just sort of share what works for us. But I would love to know if you have any tips that like work really well with your kids when you're traveling, whether that's by plane or on long car journeys. I would love to hear them, so do let me know below. Likewise, if you're going away this year, let me know where you're going. And if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and I will see you in my next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.